It's good to be able to host you here in the Comptroller's office. I'm Jason Mumpower, Comptroller of the Treasury. We are delighted to have you here. This committee is important. I was in the legislature when it was created, and so I appreciate the fact that we're getting together here today in a way that hasn't happened in some time. This committee is a very independent body. It was designed to be that way. One thing that you all will need to do today is be sure and elect officers of this committee and you know, kind of perpetuate your next meeting based on what you think is good. We are delighted to have a new Open Records Counsel since you met last. Tony Chadwick, who you'll interact with today, is the Open Records Counsel. And I think we're getting a lot of feedback in the room. For those of you online, you may want to mute your phone. Thank you. We're glad to have you all participating virtually online as well. Really, I'll get out of the way. Senator Briggs, good to have you here as always. I appreciate your mission, appreciate your dedication, appreciate your service, and I'll turn it over to you all to get started. Thank you very much.
All right, I think we have to call it to order, correct?
For online that we do have a quorum.
Sure.
I know there are several for online. So.
Maybe it would make sense for everybody to go around and introduce themselves. I can start. I'm Joel Christopher. I'm the executive editor at the Knoxville News Sentinel.
Yeah, Eddie Ferris. I'm the sheriff of Putnam County and representing the Tennessee Sheriff's Association.
I'm Brian Laps, General Counsel of the Tennessee Board of Regents, the higher education representative.
I'm Jennifer Wilkerson. I'm the Circuit Court Clerk in Putnam County.
I'm State Senator Richard Briggs, and I'm the chairman of the State and Local Government Committee.
And then if we could have those who are online introduce themselves, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Karen Jackson. I don't know if you can see me or not. Can you see me?
We can't, but that's okay.
But anyway, all right, let's see. Let's access the camera. I am real. Okay. Karen Jackson representing AARP Western Region.
Hi there, this is Chris Vass. I'm the public editor at the Times Free Press in Chattanooga, and I am representing TPA.
Good morning. I am Tanisha Holly. I am in Knoxville, Tennessee, representing the League of Women Voters.
This is Dick Williams. My voice is terrible today. I'm glad to be involved with Common Cause.
Victor, it looks like you're talking, but I think you might be muted.
I don't think I'm muted. My voice is just terrible today. Can you hear that at all?
Yes, we can. Victor Ash, you may be muted. Well, we see you, Victor. If you can get that audio going, we'd like to hear from you for sure. And do we have anybody else?
I'm not hearing.
How to do that? I'm challenged in this area.
All right, Victor, we can hear you now. Except for you just muted yourself one more time. Well, we'll give Victor a second to figure it out, but we know he's here. So, we had a question about whether we had a quorum. Okay.
And one thing I thought about when Victor Ash was speaking, are we also going to ask the questions that required of open meetings great.
I'll let you
Okay.
proceed there.
Being with the Tennessee Board of Regents, when we have an electronic meeting, when we take the roll call, we usually ask the two questions, which is essentially, can you participate in real time? And second, is anybody else there with you? So those are the two questions. And when we go through the roll and call the roll, people generally answer yes to both, or if they can't, they don't.
So let's do that. Yes, I can
sounds like-
participate in real time, and I'm here in the conference room with members of the committee.
Right. I don't think people in the committee have to
great.
do it, but the people online will need to go ahead and do that if we want to comply with that portion of the Open Meetings Act.
So if we could, those of you who are online, if you could answer those two questions, are you able to participate in real time? And is there anyone there with you?
Karen Jackson, I can participate in real time and no one is here.
This is Chris Bass. I can participate in real time and nobody's here with me in my car.
Dick Williams. I try to participate in real time, and only my caregiver is here with me.
Victor, have you figured out your mute issue?
Still not hearing
Yeah, we're still not hearing you. Until you get that fixed, it's going to be...
Someone's got to tell me. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
All right, you're good now. I would just leave it, your settings as they are. Welcome, Victor.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, I'm by myself in my office, and I'm not there because United Airlines canceled their flight. Last night, I was flying in from Denver.
Excellent. Glad you could make it virtually. All right. Next step is discussion and election of co-chairs.
I guess, have we taken the roll sufficiently? I guess we have. Quorum.
So for us to proceed and then continue to make sure that we're meeting on a regular basis and doing the business of this committee, we need to discuss and elect co-chairs. Leave the floor open for that conversation.
I'll elect this gentleman right here. He seems to be doing very well.
I'll second that.
I'll
motion.
second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Am I allowed to vote opposed?
You may, but I think you're
kidding.
overruled.
Just kidding.
And then we need a co-chair as well.
I think that ought to be somebody whose term expires in 28 as opposed to 26. Mine expires in 26.
Tony, do you have the roster of terms?
Mine expires in 28. I'm not seeking the position, by the way.
Sure sounds like it.
Give me 1 second to pull this up. It's telling me I do not have internet. Okay, in 2028, Ambassador Victor Ashe, Jennifer Wilkerson, Chris Cheryl Bass, Alicia Hodge, Dr. Lee Carter, and that concludes the terms that will expire in 2028.
I'll volunteer.
You'll volunteer?
I'll volunteer.
All right. I move to appoint you as co-chair.
Could you introduce yourself?
Yes. My name is Alicia Hodge, and I work for Public Entity Partners, and I am the designee for TML.
Second.
What else we need?
You have a motion
I
and
guess,
a second.
yeah, we have a motion with a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Welcome, Vice Chair Hodge. Thank you for volunteering. I guess the next thing we need to do is to discuss and elect a secretary. Do we have any volunteers?
Or can it be a staff person?
I don't know the answer to that. Tony, is the secretary a staff person, or should it be somebody on the committee? And you're welcome to take a seat at the table. You don't have to keep walking up and down, because you're going to be doing that a lot this afternoon.
That's okay.
This morning, I think.
No, so you all don't have staff that has been hired or in any way, so it would have to be someone on the committee themselves. And I'm double checking, Ms. Fisher says that one of the co-chairs may need to be a governmental representative. So I'm just looking over the statute really quickly if you guys want to.
Okay. Does TBR count as a government representative?
Which
Well,
one?
also, we have that,
Yes.
Okay.
some people need to notify members of committee meetings, logistics, and where we're meeting, and, I mean, not heavy lifting, but somebody has to do it.
Okay. All right. Jennifer Putnam has volunteered to be secretary, unless anybody else wants to throw their name in. All right. Do I have a motion?
I move to.
So moved. This is Chris Bass.
In a second? Any,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Jennifer. All right, the next issue is the public comment period. I'm not precisely sure what we're supposed to be discussing. Is that the length of the public comment period, or are we just opening up a time for the members of the public to comment? Okay, great. Well, why don't we start with those who are here who might like to comment? Is there anybody in the room who would like to comment?
I would.
Okay, we have somebody online. I can't, raising his hand, I cannot read the name from here because my eyes aren't good enough. Could you please identify yourself, sir?
Yeah, my name is Peter Mayer. I live in Haywood County in West Tennessee. I submitted written public comments last week. I didn't know if they were distributed to the group.
I have not seen any.
Okay, and there are no rules right now or a public comment policy that I have to follow before I present my public comments. Is that correct?
I'm not going to say there aren't any. I'm not aware of what they are at the current time, but if you would just like to comment, please feel free.
So, you know, this group hadn't met since 2020. And our state, in most reports, it ranks dead last in the nation in open government, transparency, accountability, and civic participation. Okay, so let me go over, and one thing I've got to keep this limited to is what y'all probably don't know y'all are supposed to be doing is advising our Office of Open Records Counsel, which has lots of easy to fix cost saving opportunities. That I've sent engagement letters from lawyers to fix things that could save our state money. They're all being ignored. Over a couple common sense things that have 100% bipartisan support for members of our state that care about a free press and free speech, okay? First and foremost, you know, the comptroller hasn't allowed me to present public comment about the Office of Open Records Counsel for years. So we need to make sure we address that problem and we don't limit or restrict those public comments. And we allow civic participation in that regard. Second, I think everybody's in agreement that the groups afforded with this responsibility that have accepted the responsibility provide a simple, we create or they provide from the Tennessee Ethics Commission a simple disclosure of conflicts of interest on about who's on this committee. Are they registered lobbyists? Are they benefiting from exemptions from our open government laws? Are they lobbying for exemptions to our open government laws? I think everybody would like to know that, and we should voluntarily do that. Some things we could include on those disclosures are statewide membership numbers of the groups by geographic division, so everybody's represented statewide. You know, again, are there registered lobbyists involved? Writing legislation? What other ACOG group member affiliations may exist among the appointees? We need evidence from the Secretary of State that some of these groups are actually registered groups of our state and have memberships in our state. That's the state law is very clear that created the Advisory Committee on Open Government, that each of these groups is supposed to provide 3 nominees to Mr. Mumpower. Some of them are not, okay? We need to publish for the Office of Open Records Counsel, like most other states, a searchable database of all the Office of Open Records Counsel opinions. So people like me whose free press and free speech rights are continually violated statewide, I don't have to keep bothering the limited staff of the Office of Open Records Counsel to see if they've provided a related opinion somewhere else. Okay, that's a searchable database. A number of states are doing this. That saves everybody time and money. We need to amend the mediation communications protocol of the Office of Open Records Counsel. Tennessee uniquely and intentionally has no formal process to file a complaint for a free speech or a free press violation. We have no formal process. The Office of Open Records Counsel can mediate a denial or a violation, but there's no legal authority for the violating government agency to accept that mediation request. So in my case, they're typically always declined. And I've discovered that the Office of Open Records Counsel is making phone calls to offer mediations rather than a simple, polite public record email. That's an easy fix. I think we all would agree that would save everybody time and money. We need to make sure that all of our Office of Open Records Counsel trainings statewide that we spend a fortune on, somebody other than me, because I'm the only one that's ever done it in state history, record these trainings so people that have responsibilities or have to be at work or have to provide caregiving or can't travel can benefit from these trainings that we're spending all this money on. It's 2025. I was the first in state history to do this last year in Jackson, Tennessee at the Carl Perkins Center. I got permission from the Office of Open Records Counsel. We need public access of all groups statewide to all the correspondence of our Open Government Committee. I'm having to file burdensome, expensive public records requests just to see what this group is doing, because nothing is shared on our taxpayer-funded website. We need to also, as a group or the General Assembly, needs to reevaluate the records retention schedule of the Office of Open Records Counsel and the Advisory Committee on Open Government. I've presented this to public comment to the State Public Records Commission. This just doesn't make any sense. We need all historical documentation of the Open Government Group naturally on our Open Government website. That would be all of our previous minutes, all of our previous agendas, records of the nominations for these groups. Of all groups, we should be the most transparent. I think everybody statewide would agree on that. Again, we don't even have a public comment policy. That should concern everybody interested in First Amendment civil liberties, the foundation of our republic. So let's create that. I'm happy to serve and volunteer on that. We need to clarify exactly, again, who is on the ACOG committee, and are they meeting the responsibilities that state code is clear about? Okay, are they submitting nominations? Are they a registered group in our state? Does the Secretary of State know who they are? Are they self-appointing themselves? What parts of the state do they represent? What parts of our state do they not represent? And then finally, the General Assembly or Senator Briggs here can possibly address how we remove and replace non-compliant Advisory Committee on Open Government groups. Most states have eliminated these group appointment advisory boards, committees, and commissions altogether because they don't meet and they're covered up in conflicts of interest. And they're writing laws of which they're advising on, and it's a problem. These should be, just to be honest with you, in my opinion, these should be individual appointments, okay? And go through a criminal background check so we know who is who. And I would start by, at the end of the day, posting this agenda on our comptroller's website on the Advisory Committee on Open Government webpage. Tennesseans demand it. I don't like being ranked in last place in the nation in open government, free press, and free speech matters. I've given most of these groups money. Okay? We need transparency and accountability in the Transparency and Accountability Group. And I have been very clear on easy fixes that y'all are entrusted to fix within the Office of Open Records Counsel. This is going on too long. Going on too long. There's a lot of people in this state suffering because of the inactivity of this group. And a lot of it is misleading. It may be intentional, it may not be, but it's easy to fix and it saves everybody time and money, especially those that understand what free press and free speech is. Okay? The other thing is very important. Y'all need to start meeting quarterly and meet in person in different geographic divisions of this state. I think last time I checked, the first time I figured out who y'all were, 16 of 17 of you people aren't even representing West Tennessee or Memphis. That's the nation's front lines. You know? So start meeting in Memphis. Quarterly meetings. The other thing is, the Office of Open Records Counsel on our website is supposed to give us public records request coordinator contacts. That hadn't been updated in 7 years. You got personal email addresses on this thing. I've offered with the Office of Open Records Counsel to volunteer and fix this. They won't do it. Maybe this group can volunteer to update those lists. Those are both state and local contacts. And without those contacts, we can't even get our records. I don't even know how anybody's doing any journalism. Okay? The other thing is we might want to think about rebranding the Advisory Committee on Open Government. Okay? Cracker Barrel just got a lot of publicity for rebranding themselves. And I'm recommending, maybe a suggestion, we rename it to the Advisory Committee on Exceptions and Special Expeditious Access of the Tennessee Public Records and Open Meetings Act. These are easy to fix, common sense solutions that have 100% bipartisan support. And as soon as we start having those quarterly meetings in each division of our great state, we can start addressing these low national rankings and respecting the foundations of our republic. Does any of y'all want any help? If y'all would like me to volunteer to provide a presentation, I will. I'll have the last year's recording of the Office of Open Records Counsel public free training in Jackson, Tennessee, Carl Perkins Civic Center up on social media very soon. It was professionally done, but I took my time and my expense to do that. We should again be doing that. And I just want to make sure that all of my comments that I formally submitted last Monday are included in this meeting's agenda and minutes. Apparently none of y'all got it, but it will be included in the minutes. Okay, and that's all I got. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm not sure exactly what at this point would be within this committee's purview and which of those comments were more directed to the Office of Open Records Counsel, but you've nevertheless given us things to think about, and we'll look forward to seeing the written comments, and we thank you for your oral comments. Is there anybody else?
The role is to advise the Office of Open Records Counsel. That's the whole mission. That's what state statute says. So it's all germane. Everything I said is germane to this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
I just wanted to add, if there were written comments submitted a few days ago, I don't know who had them, but it would be appropriate to share them with members in advance of the meeting.
Yeah.
If that's doable. Does anyone even know if someone got them? I mean, Tony, would she have gotten them? Or?
Yes, I received the written comments that were meant to be public comments. I wasn't sure because you all don't have a public records policy or public comment policy, whether they should be forwarded or not. If you all would like those, I would be happy to send out an email to everyone with Mr. Mayor's written comments.
Yeah,
I think we'd like that.
yeah, I agree.
All right. Anybody else? Would anybody else like to address the committee? All right. Hearing no other requests, and if anybody is online. Yes.
I do have a question. I'm sorry. This is Tanisha Holly. I have a question about minutes or a copy of the transcript. Is that something that goes out to the committee? And if so, what's the timeline on that?
Well, we will need to do minutes, but in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, it's my understanding that this session will be posted on the website and available. Am I correct on that? I'm being told I'm correct on that. So in the absence of minutes, this will serve as the official record, or if there's any conflict, this will serve as the official record. By this, I'm meaning the video.
Okay, so just for my clarification, the video will be on the website.
Correct.
And how long does that take to upload? Like, is there a time frame on when that gets done?
Yeah.
It's required to be posted within 2 business days or 3 business days. I expect that it will likely be posted by the end of the day.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am?
I'm Deborah Fisher.
Could you move up to the microphone, please, so we can hear you and so it can be recorded better?
I think I've met most of you. I'm Deborah Fisher. I'm the Executive Director of Tennessee Coalition for Open Government. I just wanted to just give you just a little bit of background about the advisory committee, which was and Alicia Hodge is here, who is the first Open Records Counsel. She could probably actually do a better job at explaining all the statute than I could, but it was formed in 2018 at the same time that the Office of Open Records Counsel was formed. And I believe I wasn't involved with TCOG at the time, but it was, an effort to get a cross-section of citizen and media groups and government groups together to be able to have discussion about things happening out there in the real world in terms of access to records, and I suppose meetings too, even though it's called the Office of Open Records Counsel. But so anyway, I'm glad that the committee was able to have a meeting. I believe the last one was in 2019 before COVID. I could be wrong about that. I think that's right. So I'm glad that you're meeting, and thank you for coming together. And thank you, Chairman Briggs, for assisting in some legislation that kind of fixed a little problem when there were no co-chairs to call a meeting. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Anybody else, either online or in person, like to comment or to address the committee? Well, hearing no other people wishing to address, we'll move on to the next item. And Ms. Fisher gave us a great segue, because the next item is a discussion of the purpose of the committee. I know because the committee has not met for some time, all of us are new, and we would like to hear more discussion about the purpose of the committee. I don't know whether, Ms. Chadwick, you'd like to provide that, or Ms. Hodge, whether you would like to do that, or anybody like to give us some advice on our purposes and moving on.
Ms. Chadwick, can you tell us the statute? I think if we could start there with the statute.
Give me 1 second. It is 8-4-603. That would be TCA 84603.
And could we all get a copy of that sent out along with the comments
Sure, yeah.
previously? So we have that. And would you like to summarize that for us so we can all, or is it really long?
It would be, I think, most appropriate if one of the members wanted to sort of summarize that. But it's available through Westlaw, and I can send it to each of you along with the written comments.
That would be great. Ms.
So
Hodge, as former Open Record Counsel, would you like to share your information?
I won't summarize it. I think it's important for us to know exactly what the language in the statute says. So I'll just go through it, if that's okay.
That'd be wonderful.
So the first part of it says that the advisory committee shall, with the guidance of the Office of Open Records Counsel, hold meetings to review and provide written comments, if requested, on any proposed legislation regarding the open meetings laws compiled in Chapter 44 of this title and the open records laws compiled in Title 10, Chapter 7. The next part says the advisory committee shall select 2 co-chairs from among its membership. The next part says one co-chair selected under this subdivision shall represent the interest of the advisory committee members appointed. And then it has a long list of who all needs to be included on the advisory committee. The advisory committee shall meet at least once during each calendar year, with the date of such meeting to be set by joint agreements of the co-chairs. The co-chairs of the committee may, by joint agreement, call additional meetings at any time and shall, upon the request of a majority of the members, call additional meetings. All meetings of the advisory committee shall be open to the public and pursuant to the Open Meetings Act. The Office of Open Records Counsel shall facilitate the convening of the meetings of the Advisory Committee on Open Government. There's a definition for facilitate, and it includes select a date of the required annual meeting if the advisory committee has failed to elect co-chairs and a majority of the members of the advisory committee make a written request, which includes communication of such request by email to the Office of Open Records Counsel to select a date for the required annual meeting. They are also to reserve a room for the advisory committee to meet in the Office of the Comptroller of the Treasury and post on the Comptroller's website notice of the meetings of the advisory committee, minutes of meetings as required to the Office of Open Records Counsel by the advisory committee, and meeting agendas as provided to the Office of Open Records Counsel by the advisory committee. Provided, however, that if a meeting is called pursuant to the subdivision, members of the advisory committee shall submit any items they seek to be addressed in the meeting to the Office of Open Records Counsel at least 72 hours in advance of the meeting, and the Office of Open Records Counsel shall create an agenda from the items submitted by the board members, and providing an electronic method by which the committee may allow participation by electronic means pursuant to 844-108. It goes on to say the Office of Open Records Counsel and the advisory committee shall separately provide a detailed report of their activities to the governor, the Speaker of the Senate, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Chair of the State and Local Government Committee of the Senate, the Chair of the Local Government Committee of the House of Representatives, and the Chair of the State Government Committee of the House of Representatives by March 1 of each year. The advisory committee shall provide reports on open records and open meetings laws and issue as requested by the governor or any committee of the General Assembly. And then finally, any written comments or reports provided by the advisory committee shall require unanimous consent of the co-chairs. That's how the statute reads.
Thank you.
I'd like to add that we should do this voluntarily, but in terms of sending the report, it's certainly fine for whoever's getting it. But if you notice, that excludes any of the minority members of the General Assembly, because none of them are chair of any committees, and it doesn't say minority leader of the House or Senate. I just think in terms of fairness and bipartisanship, even though the law doesn't require it, there's nothing that would prevent us from, as a courtesy, I'd welcome Senator Briggs' thoughts on that, but to include the leadership of the party, whoever that may be.
I'll just add that, just as Ambassador Ash just mentioned, it's not required in the statute, but I think that would be that'd be a very good idea.
Thank you, Chairman Briggs. I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion about the purpose of the committee? Okay, if none, then we'll move on to the next item, which is the discussion and potential adoption of bylaws for the committee. I don't know whether the committee has ever had bylaws and whether they've just expired or just they've never been adopted at all. Okay. All right. Would anybody like to open the discussion about having some bylaws for the committee? Good idea, bad idea?
Let me make a suggestion.
Sure, Chairman.
Rather than reinventing the wheel, and it's like drawing up a new constitution, I don't know if we need to do that, but perhaps with some of these other advisory committees on other issues, let's just take one of those, use that as a model. It may be on how to elect officers, how often we want to meet, where we want to meet, some of these issues. Some of that was already in the in the TCA. And then that way we can use it and maybe at our next meeting or pass those around to the members of the committee for comments. As that way we can adapt that to us rather than, trying to sit down and draw up a whole new set of bylaws.
I'll be happy to take the lead in trying to find some of those bylaws that we could
We have a lot
look
of
at.
advisory committees. I'm sure we could find one that would be pretty close and then adapt it to our needs.
One of the other things that we need to think about, and this is something that Mr. Mayor brought out with his comments, was to have some rules, as the statute calls them, around public comment periods.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good idea. We at least need a policy for that. But I'm going to look to our advisor, General Lamberth, and ask whether that's going to need to go through the formal rulemaking process. Okay, because we don't have the authority to promulgate rules. We can't promulgate rules, and therefore a policy. And I'll also take volunteer to find a policy or two on public comment and how to address and propose something like that. Any other comments regarding bylaws or policies or things that we might want to be looking at for our next time to meet? Okay. The next item on the business agenda is a discussion of alternative meeting locations. I don't know whether that would be the suggestion to meet other than in downtown Nashville, or whether we would go and meet other places. I would at least suggest that we meet I think most of us seem to be in the Middle Tennessee area. Am I right about that? Is this
Two of them, Knoxville.
We got a couple in Knoxville.
Memphis area, Shelby County.
Okay. Well, why don't we come prepared to discuss?
I think Ambassador Ash has a comment.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's good periodically to meet other than Nashville. I would suggest in Nashville, we choose a different site because handicap parking at Cordell Hall is difficult. Thanks to Senator Briggs' office, I was able to resolve my personal issue. But frankly, the State Library and Archives has nice meeting rooms, so does State Museum. They wouldn't charge, I'm sure. And the parking is literally at the door, and it's just more convenient than, trying to, unless you're a member of the General Assembly, parking near the Cordell Hall building is difficult.
Yeah.
And that seems to me that's easy to do. And the two places I mentioned are, very close to the General Assembly, and as I say, the parking is adjacent to the building.
That sounds like a good suggestion to me. Does anybody know whether they have the ability to I assume they have the ability to host electronic meetings there as well, but that would be an issue.
I'm sure they would have the ability for us to participate by electronic meeting, but as you know, these are recorded and will be placed on the General Assembly website. I don't know if they would have there probably would be a technical way that could be done, but I think that would be one thing we'd need to investigate is just would they be able to record it and then place that recording on the General Assembly website?
Yeah. Well, again, I can look into that. And as an alternative and a backup to that for our next meeting, I would be happy to offer the Tennessee Board of Regents office, which is at the corner of Donaldson Pike and Briley Parkway, and is also accessible. We've got a boardroom probably about the size of this room and plenty of space for members of the public to attend. And I know we've got the ability to do the technological issues there.
That would be fine. And if you met here in Knoxville, Joel, I'm sure the University of Tennessee would have something, or maybe our Knox County Library, but that certainly could be done.
I don't know if parking at the University of Tennessee is better than around here, though.
It would be tough.
Yeah.
We'd have already bought.
Maybe in the summer.
I just think the
We could meet
idea
in
of,
Memphis.
maybe you could. I wouldn't know where, but I guess we'll figure it out, Karen.
Yeah, I can figure it out. We can meet at the Ben Hooks Library. I'll make a phone call.
Okay.
Well, you got the phone. I'll help coordinate it if we decide that. The point is, we're on extreme sides of the county, and sometimes it isn't easy to get to Nashville and fight the traffic, at 9. So as long as we keep the virtual available, because all of us won't be available at any one time. It's just the idea. It's a good idea to move it around the state.
Okay. Well, it sounds like there's some agreement to move it around the state, but let's have the next one. Are we going to have the next one here in Nashville, either at the first choice State Library and Archives, second choice TBR System Office? Do we?
Yes. I mean,
Yeah, I would. That would be fine because you have access to all your records there.
Okay. Well, why don't we do that? And look at that. And I guess we probably ought to select a date for that. Shall we do that sometime in I guess technically we're in the third quarter now, so I guess we should look sometime in the fourth quarter.
October through December.
Yeah, October through December. I mean, probably going to be hard to do it in December. People tend to get busy there. October seems a little on the early side. So what about early November?
I would support that.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll throw out, what does this time of day work for everybody? 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern? Okay, let's look at.
Time of day is fine.
Okay. You want to look at the first week, which would be November 3rd?
There's an election on November 4th.
Yes.
Which
That's election.
makes it challenging for news organizations.
All right. What about November 10th?
Out of the state.
Better for me.
Okay.
Sure.
Our secretary is going to be out of the state on the 10th. And I think she's probably the most important person to be here and participating.
I can turn that over to someone.
So what about,
7 or 8? Does it have to be a Monday?
I don't think it does. And what about Friday, November 7? Is that not?
Good with that.
Seems,
That's okay.
well, co-chair probably ought to be there too. You can run the next one. Okay, what about November 5? Well, November 5 is the day after the election. That's probably no better. So what about November 11?
I'll be gone that.
That's Veterans Day. That's a holiday, so that's not going to be good. I've got a board meeting on the 12th. What about November 13th?
I'm available.
Any objections? Any objections to November 13?
No, book it.
All right. Our next meeting will be November 13, 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, hopefully at the State Library and Archives.
Can I ask you, is there someone on staff that takes care of per diem?
I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, your hotel costs, yes, that's all I'm asking. I know there's no compensation for attending, but
Right.
I assume they're paid per diem, but
Yeah.
I don't know who doesn't.
Ms. Chadwick?
You don't have staff. As ACOG, there are travel authorization forms for any of you who had to drive in. Moving forward, as you all have co-chairs elected at this point, that would be something that you would have to work out in some other way.
Okay.
I mean, I would be happy to assist if needed, but I'm not sure about per diem, hotel stays or anything like that,
Yeah.
what would be, or I'm sure it's in the statute. I just haven't reviewed that portion, what you would be reimbursed for.
Does anybody know that answer? All right, that looks like it's in the statute, okay. That there is a reimbursement in the statute? Okay.
You said it is in the statute.
It is in the statute, I'm being told. So,
That's just, there's somebody, whether Ms. Chadwick or someone else who processes it. It's not complicated, but someone has to do it.
it's not complicated, but I don't know what, at current time, we'll have to figure out what pot of money it comes from and who we would submit it to, because I don't have authority to issue, I don't think I have authority to commit the state's resources on that, but we'll look at that issue as well. Okay. Any other business that any member of the committee would like to bring up?
This is Karen from Westman, Shelby County. I just wanted to make sure that when we say we're going to send these things out, apparently all the statements that were made, public statements that were made and so forth, it will come electronically, so we don't have to get a whole packet of paper since there is no budget anyway. So I just wanted to affirm that we'll get that electronically.
That would be my preference, and that's my assumption, that it will all be electronic unless somebody were to need it and request it to be printed.
So I'll speak to the reimbursement in a separate part of the statute. This is 84602. It says the non-legislative members shall not receive compensation for serving on the committee, but shall be reimbursed for attendance at meetings in accordance with the comprehensive travel regulations promulgated by the Commissioner of Finance and Administration and approved by the Attorney General and Reporter. Now, how that works and what the process is, I'm not sure how we make that happen, but the language in the statute does allow for reimbursement.
Well, we will figure out how to provide the reimbursement.
Usually it's someone on staff. I'm on the State Museum Commission as well as the Historic Commission, and there's a staff person who, usually the finance person, who just resign your name, and that's how it's done.
Yeah.
But we don't have staff.
But we don't have staff. Yeah. Maybe we can advise the Open Records Council that they should reimburse us. But we'll need to take a look at that, because I do think it's important to have in-person participation. And we can check with F&A as well.
Maybe the law needs to be amended to specify clearly what offices state government doesn't.
That's a possibility, but hopefully we could get it into a policy and figure it out without having to amend the law, because that takes a lot of work on it. Chairman?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. What I wanted to just make a comment, if we're going to have a meeting in November, and I believe when we were reading TCA A-4-603, is that it was to discuss potential future legislation. And I know Deborah is the one that follows up on a lot of that. And that may be something that if there's going to be bills or laws that's going to be proposed, that would be this would be a good time to bring those up. And the reason I mention that is that sometimes, at least from my standpoint and my point of view, I can foresee problems, and Deborah can too. She's up here. She has her finger on the pulse about how things work up here, is that we can modify it rather than it, getting hung up someplace on something that's just not going to go, and modify it enough that it gives us a better chance as a starting point to work on it, because we can always amend bills as we go forward. But sometimes if we have a pretty good bill to begin with, it just requires, a lot less work.
Okay.
And that was part of what was in 84603 of the purpose of this committee.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other business to come before the committee? If none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I so move.
Second. All right. Well, then we're adjourned. Thank you all for your participation remotely. Thank you for the comments, and thank you everybody for attending here in person. And I look forward to working with members of the committee and other interested parties as we move forward and try to improve this committee and try to improve open government in the state of Tennessee. We're adjourned.